Okay, so have you ever like hopped into a brand new car and just like
Oh,
breathed in that new car smell?
oh
You
yeah,
know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, like,
But did you ever stop to think that like someone actually created that smell?
mm.
Like a scientist?
It's true. We're diving into the world of fragrance chemistry today, and you guys sent in some really cool resources from RoleCatcher about it. Should we do it?
Let's dive in.
Uh,
I think what's so interesting about this field is we usually think of like luxury items when we think about fragrance, right?
Uh-huh.
Perfume, candles.
Right, right.
But these chemists, they're the noses behind, well, everything. Your laundry detergent, that new car smell, it's all thanks to them.
Wait, really? So it's not just like spritzing perfume strips all day?
No, no way. Rollcatcher's Guide, it really opened my eyes to just how much these chemists do.
Uh,
Cosmetics, shampoos, I mean, even the scent of like the plastic of a new phone case, they do it all. Wow. See, I'd never even considered that. Like
oh.
the science behind how a trash bag smells, you'd think they just want to, cover up the smell of garbage, but I bet there's a lot more to it, huh?
Oh, absolutely.
So to do all that, do they like have a superpowered sense of smell or something? What even is this job?
It's less about having a superhuman nose and more about understanding how all these different molecules work together. Like imagine taking the scent of a rose, breaking it down to its individual molecules, and then recreating it. They use techniques like gas chromatography.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. They're analyzing scents, figuring out how all the different parts interact. They can even predict how those interactions will play out in a final product. Like, will this scent last longer on certain fabrics? Stuff like that.
So it's a lot of science then.
It is,
Yeah.
but there's a creative side to it too, for sure.
So they're like a scientist and an artist all in one.
Exactly. And they're not just working alone in a lab either. Rollcatcher had this interesting point about how important, like, judgment and problem solving skills are in this job, even active listening.
Oh, really?
Yeah, fragrance chemists, they work with perfumers, they listen to what people want. They even have to stay up to date on safety regulations to make sure everything they create is safe to use.
Wow. So there's a lot more to it than I realized.
Yeah.
It sounds like to get into this line of work, you can't just like fall into it, you
Yeah,
know?
you're right. You definitely can. Education is super important.
Yeah, Rollcatcher mentioned that. Like you usually need a bachelor's or master's degree in chemistry. Makes sense though. You need to know how to like build these scents from the ground up, right?
Exactly. You can't just throw a bunch of fragrant ingredients together and hope for the best. A deep understanding of those molecular building blocks, it's really crucial to being a fragrance chemist.
Okay, so then what? You get your degree,
Yeah.
you learn all about these molecules, then what?
Well, that's just the beginning. What I found really interesting is that for fragrance chemists, the learning never really stops.
Oh, okay. Tell me more about that. Okay, so then what? You get your degree, you learn all about these molecules, then what?
Well, that's just the beginning. What I found really interesting is that for fragrance chemists, the learning never really stops.
Oh, okay. Tell me more about that.
Well, let's say you land your first job, right? You're an entry-level fragrance chemist, all bright-eyed and ready to go.
Yeah, yeah.
You might think you'll be, like, thrown right into the perfume aisle, but it's not like that at all.
Oh, really?
No. RoleCatcher described it more like, almost like a high-tech culinary school.
Okay.
You're not creating your own signature scent right away. It's a lot of like learning the ropes, assisting the more senior chemists, getting that hands-on experience with the tried and true formulas.
So more like you're mastering the art of vanilla extract before you get to like bake the cake.
Yes, exactly. It's all about, precision, consistency, making sure that lavender hand cream smells like lavender every single time. And of course, making sure it meets all the quality standards, documenting everything perfectly.
Right. Right. I bet that's where all those analytical skills from college really come in handy.
Oh, absolutely. Even at that entry level, RoleCatcher mentioned that you'd be like analyzing ingredients, making sure they meet all the safety regulations. Because remember, we are talking about chemicals here. You have to know what you're doing.
Right, of course. Safety first.
Yeah.
So it's not just about making a nice smell, it's about making a safe smell.
Yeah.
So when do you actually get to be creative? Like when do you get to experiment with making your own scents?
Well, that's where becoming a junior fragrance chemist comes in. You've like leveled up, you've got the basics down, and now you have a little more freedom.
Okay, so what does that look like? Like what are you doing differently?
Well, you'll still be working with the senior chemists, but you get more responsibility. Like maybe you're brainstorming new fragrance concepts with the marketing team, or even developing prototypes based on current trends. Like, remember when everyone wanted their house to smell like a spa?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So you might be working on something like that.
Cool. So you're like bridging the gap between the science of it all and what people actually want to smell.
Exactly. And that requires more than just, textbook knowledge. You need that judgment, that ability to collaborate, to listen. All those soft skills that RoleCatcher talked about, they're really important in this role.
So it's like you're conducting a whole orchestra, but instead of instruments, it's scents.
I love that analogy. And then, as you get more and more experience, you might even find yourself leading the orchestra one day as a senior fragrance chemist.
Okay, now that sounds impressive. What does it take to reach like the top of the fragrance pyramid? Okay, now that sounds impressive. What does it take to reach like the top of the fragrance pyramid?
Well, those senior fragrance chemists, they're the ones who've really honed their craft. It's where all those years of experience, that deep knowledge of the science, it all comes together.
So what are they actually doing differently?
At that level, they're not just, following formulas anymore. They're the ones pushing the boundaries, innovating, coming up with completely new ideas in the world of fragrance.
Oh, wow. So like inventing totally new scents.
Exactly. Imagine you hand them a mood board, and it's all these, abstract concepts like tranquility or adventure or even nostalgia. And their job is to translate those feelings into an actual physical scent. That's the kind of challenge they live for.
Wow, that's next level. But it's not just about being creative, right?
Yeah.
I mean, RoleCatcher mentioned that sustainability, being eco-conscious, that's a big deal in the fragrance industry these days.
Absolutely. People want scents that are, not just beautiful, but also ethically and sustainably produced. And senior fragrance chemists, they're the ones leading the way.
So it's like instead of just grabbing whatever ingredients they need, they're thinking about the environmental impact right from the start.
Yeah, exactly. They might be researching new sustainable fragrance sources like plant extracts from biodiverse regions, or finding cool ways to use byproducts that used to be thrown away.
So they're like composing these symphonies of scent, but they're in harmony with the planet.
Yes. And all this focus on sustainability, it ties into another big trend in the industry technology. Remember we were talking about those computer models earlier?
Yeah.
Well, they're getting even more advanced. Now, senior fragrance chemists can basically experiment with scents in a virtual lab.
Oh, wow. What do you mean?
Like, they can test out thousands of different ingredient combinations, but on the computer. They can see how those ingredients will interact, how long the scent will last, even how it changes over time, and they don't have to waste any actual ingredients to do it.
That's incredible. So instead of, mixing things up in a beaker and hoping for the best, they can perfect it all on a computer screen.
Kind of, yeah. It's amazing for precision, and like we were saying, it reduces waste, which is better for the environment. But computer modeling isn't the only cool technology out there. Biotechnology is starting to play a role, too.
Oh, yeah. RoleCatcher kind of hinted at that, but didn't
Mhm.
really go into detail. How is biotechnology changing things?
Well, imagine creating a completely new scent, one that doesn't even exist in nature. Biotechnology could make that possible.
Wow.
Scientists can actually manipulate the genetic makeup of plants or even tiny microorganisms to create specific aromatic molecules.
Wait, so they're like engineering new scents at a molecular level.
It sounds like science fiction, right?
Yeah.
But it's becoming a reality.
That's mind-blowing. This whole deep dive has been fascinating. I have to say, I'm looking at my perfume bottle a little differently now.
Uh-huh.
But with all this incredible stuff happening, what are some of the challenges that these fragrance chemists face?
That's a really good question. I think one of the biggest ones is just keeping up. It's a field that's constantly evolving, new technologies, new trends, new regulations.
That's a lot to keep track of.
It is. You need that mix of creativity, scientific knowledge, and honestly, just a real passion for fragrance to really thrive in this field. But you know what? It's such rewarding work. After all, these are the people who literally shape the way the world smells.
That's so true.
Yeah.
I know I'll never underestimate the power of a nice smell again. And thanks to this deep dive, next time I catch a whiff of something amazing, my perfume, the laundry detergent, whatever, I'll be thinking of all the artistry and science that went into it.
And that's what I love about fragrance. It has this incredible ability to connect us to memories, emotions, and experiences. It reminds us that even the simplest things can be filled with so much artistry and wonder.